Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 1, I Was an Outcast Liege. Chapter 78, Individual Servings. Pan Lin was feeling depressed as he sat on the couch near the window after he had a change of clothes. Feeling guilty, Fei Shi sat before him and made to speak, only to have the words die on his lips. "You don't have to say anything." Pan Lin looked out of the window at the old but brilliantly lit brothel courtyard. "It's just my bad luck to come across a lowlife like him." Fei Shi said, "You know he's a lowlife who has an extremely narrow mind. Then why quarrel with someone like him? Chenzi, it's not worth it." Pan Lin let out a self-mocking laugh and said, "Has our Pan clan fallen into such a sorry state? I can give up my moral integrity had it been for the sake of a meal. But I'd rather die than to let him mock me like this." Seeing how sorrowful he looked, Fei Shi knew that the social snubbing he had been experiencing these days were really hurting him. Although Fei Shi was a loafer, he was pretty much a person who took it easy. He comforted, "As long as the green hills remain, one need not fear a lack of firewood to burn. Where there's life, there's hope. His Majesty has not even issued the edict yet." "Chenzi, didn't his lordship say so? His Excellency Pan is a veteran minister of 3 reigns. He'd still carry some weight in His Majesty's heart." On the other side, Gu Jin lifted the curtain, and Xiao Qiye bent over to enter. Fei Shi and Pan Lin stood up together to pay their obeisances to him. Xiao Qiye raised his hand and said, "Gentlemen, there's no need to stand on ceremony. Your Excellency Pan, please take a seat." Pan Lin took his seat and said to Xiao Qiye, "Not only have I ruined your lordship's fun tonight, but I've also held back your lordship up from enjoying the wine. I deserve a beating." Xiao Qiye did not really mind. As he sat, Gu Jin served him tea. He took a few sips and said, "I've long heard of your Excellency's talents, but I have never had the chance to strike up a conversation. It could be said that fate and luck has brought us here tonight." On hearing this, Fei Shi smiled and threw Pan Lin a signal with his eyes. Pan Lin hurriedly bowed. Xiao Qiye motioned for him to take a seat again and said, "I was the one who carried out the task of dredging up the public ditches, so I know very well how it really was. The public ditches on Donglong Street were old to begin with, having been haphazardly dug before His Excellency Pan took up the post of Minister of Works. There are too many points in this matter that don't make sense. If you ask me, the blame for the rise in water level this time shouldn't be pinned on His Excellency Pan." A surge of warmth welled up in Pan Lin's heart. He said, "A few years ago, my father specifically asked someone to draw up a blueprint. But the Zongbo troops just happened to suffer a defeat back then, and the state treasury lacked money. The Ministry of Revenue refused to allocate the funds, so this matter was passed over. Who would have known, sigh. To think there's still such a thing." Xiao Qiye covered the teacup with the tea lid. "But Wei Huigu didn't mention a word about this before His Majesty. Aren't both your families on good terms with one another?" Pan Lin said nothing, but Fei Shi hastened to say, "Your lordship, why is that Wei Huigu is going all out to curry favors? It's all for the sake of being able to hold on to his top official position. He endured for all these years, finally becoming qualified enough and just in time for the inspection this year. He is waiting for the evaluation to be submitted so that he can be promoted to Deputy Secretary. This is so he can stand up to Secretariat Elder High as equals on the Imperial Court in the future. No one expected the public ditches to end up clogged at this juncture. Of course, he has to think of ways to disassociate himself from it. He's not the slightest bit willing to shoulder the responsibility for this at all. I didn't expect him to be such a person." Xiao Qiye looked slightly surprised. Having seen how the Ministry of Revenue's accounts these years have been clear without any glaring errors, I initially thought that it should be Wei Huigu's turn for a promotion this year. But who would have known that he would turn out to be such a vile person who seeks personal gains this shamelessly? What happened to His Excellency Pan is truly unfortunate. Hearing the hint of appreciation in his words, Fei Shi could not resist plucking up the courage to say, everyone has been pretty much close-mouthed about the information lately. Your lordship, Qinzi, and I had asked quite a number of people, and we still don't know what punishment His Majesty has conveyed to the Ministry of Justice. If His Excellency were to be sentenced, would he be assigned out of the Chu capital? With his heart in his mouth, Pan Lin looked at Xiao Qiye. Xiao Qiye sat tight in the chair and twiddled with his thumb ring. Only when he had them on the edges of their seats that he said, "It's hard to say. His Majesty seems to me to be hesitating, too." Fei Shi promptly said, "As long as the imperial edict has not been issued, there's still a chance to turn things around. Your lordship is truly an official in the Son of Heaven's inner ministerial circle now. I hope your lordship can put in a few good words to His Majesty regarding this issue." "I won't put in a good word for His Excellency Pan." Seeing both men's expressions change, Xiao Qiye continued unhurriedly, "I'll only speak the truth. His Excellency Pan is talented and has made contributions to the state. Even if he has made some minor mistakes, it does not merit execution or banishment. I'll speak to His Majesty again when I enter the palace tomorrow. If all goes well, the pardon should arrive at your residence within 4 days." Pan Lin was so delighted that his eyes reddened when he stood up. He did not dare to overstep his boundary and touch Xiao Qiye, so he could only grasp his own sleeves and fall to his knees hard as though he was transplanting rye seedlings and said, many thanks to your lordship for saving our lives. Gu Jin, quick, help the vice minister up." Xiao Qiye said with a smile, "This is what I should do. There's no need for your excellency to take it to heart. When you return today, tell His Excellency Pan to rest well. There are plenty of state and governmental affairs where His Excellency is still needed in the future." Fei Shi, who was frank and outspoken, said, "If there is anything we can do for your lordship in the future, please just say the word. Qinzi, let's go. We have to head back and tell His Excellency Pan the good news." Pan Lin thanked him again and said to Xiao Qiye with sincerity, "Please let me know if I can be of help to your lordship in the future. Liege is too far, I'm afraid I can't help you there. But as long as it's in Chu capital, this Pan Qinzi will definitely do my utmost as long as your lordship gives the word." Xiao Qiye said, "There's no need to act like a stranger. However, you mentioned earlier that His Excellency Pan had found someone to draw up a blueprint for the public ditches of Chu capital. I also happen to be worrying about the repairs for the public ditches. So, could I trouble you to ask His Excellency Pan if he could lend me the blueprint for a look?" Pan Lin said, "There's no need to ask. I'll send someone to deliver it right to your lordship's residence once I return home." Xiao Qiye comforted him some more, then watched as Gu Jin sent them off the boat. He listened to the reed pipes music from the pleasure boat for a moment before turning back to say to Ding Tao, "Eat what you like. Then tell the cook to go ahead and dish it up. Once you're done eating, prepare some sweet and spicy dishes, then get the cook to grill some fishes carefully and have it delivered to young Master Shen. Don't alert anyone else." With his notebook in his bag, Ding Tao ran off. Chen Yang came up from behind and said to Xiao Qiye in a hushed tone, "Master, Shui Ziyi isn't going to stay for long inside, he's still waiting to see Yao Wenyu. Are we going over?" "Yes. Of course, we are going over." Xiao Qiye looked back with icy cold eyes. "Shui Ziyuo planted a trap for me with that silk from Quan City issue. I have to give him a big gift in return. Tell the attendants to serve a few more pots of excellent wine. This Shui Ziyi should be of great use to us." ******. The prison, which fell under the charge of Kong Qiu, was strictly monitored, so Shi Hongxian could not send out any information. It was as if he was cut off from the outside world. The more he waited, the more anxious he became. After waking up one night, he found himself detained in isolation, having been swapped over to a windowless room. Why is there a sudden change in place? Because Shi Hongxian was obese, he could not squat down as freely as he would like. All he could do was to bend over slightly and call out through the gap to the warden who was delivering his food, "Brother. Sir. At least tell me something." That warden paid no attention to his words and opened the flap to push the rancid rice and leftover soup in his cell. Then he picked up the tray and left. Friend, please hold it." Shi Hongxian raised his voice. "I still have some silver in my pocket. Looking at how hard you've been working these few days, why not take it to buy some wine? Consider it my show of respect to you." The warden turned back and spat a mouthful of saliva at him. Having been snubbed, Shi Hongxian sat on the straw mat in a daze without even taking his meal. He could not even sleep well in these few days he had been waiting. He thought things over from different angles, but he could not determine where it had all gone wrong. The more time lapsed, the more uncertain he felt. This taste of being subjected to the whims of another was simply too hard to take. This room was damp, with no ducts for ventilation and no windows to let in light. Shi Hongxian would usually find it difficult to sleep even on bamboo mats, and now, it was even more of a torture for him. Eczema had broken out on his back again, and he could not reach it even if he wanted to scratch it. Later, Shi Hongxian heard a movement at the entrance. The door creaked open and Shen Zequin strode in. Behind him, Qiao Tianya, who was disguised as a stoic-faced youth, lit the lamp. Shi Hongxian struggled to move his legs and said, "What's going on? Why am I locked up here? Is this Kong Qiu's idea? I've never heard of there being such a room in Imperial Prison. You are not a long-staying convict of the prison, so it's understandable that you don't know about this room." Shen Zequin pulled off his cloak and handed it to Qiao Tianya, then said to Shi Hongxian, "The food here is not fit for human consumption. I've specially prepared some dishes. Eat some, and we'll talk." With the cloak hanging over one of his hands, Qiao Tianya opened up the food box with his other hand and served up the delicacies they had bought earlier on the way here. Shi Hongxian sat on the straw mat and watched Qiao Tianya's movements in silence when he suddenly let out a laugh. His expression quickly cooled off, and he said, "This looks like a farewell dinner. This case doesn't merit a death sentence, so why scare yourself?" Shen Zequin sat down on the bench that Qiao Tianya had dusted clean. When he noticed that Shi Hongxian had not moved his chopsticks, he got Qiao Tianya to take out another pair of chopsticks. Then, he picked a few dishes to eat before sampling a mouthful of wine. It was only then Shi Hongxian moved his chopsticks. Shen Zequin set down the chopsticks and looked at him. He said with a smile, "We are brothers. Do you have to be so tightly guarded against me?" Shi Hongxian picked out the steam-twisted roll and gobbled them down. It was only after his hunger was sated that he replied, "We are in exceptional situations. If you were in my shoe, won't you act the same way? How did that matter go? Have you seen Shi Dan?" Shen Zequin finished up the wine in his cup and nodded to Qiao Tianya. Qiao Tianya opened the door and led the man in. "Second young master." Shi Dan hurried in. When he saw Shi Hongxian, he lowered his head and wept, "How you must have suffered." Steadying his hand, Shi Hongxian drank up the last drop of wine and said, "Get up. Don't make a fool of yourself. It's not time for me to meet my end yet." Wiping his face, Shi Dan said, "During these past few days when the second young master was not at home, I've already informed the shopkeepers of the various areas to manage their accounts carefully. I wouldn't dare to let them mess up. But you're the pillar of the clan. We still need you to take charge of the affairs personally." Shi Hongxian ate his dishes in silence. After a long while, he said, "Tell me the situation out there." Shi Dan replied, "His Majesty wants someone to take responsibility for the matter, and both the Ministry of Revenue and the Ministry of Works do not want to shoulder the blame. At present, Pan Xiongja has already been suspended, and he has already received a flogging. Seeing as the situation did not bode well, I went to plead with His Excellency Shui, but he was too busy with his official duties that I did not manage to get to see him at all. Yanqing did not see you. Shi Hongxian suddenly threw his chopsticks away and looked at Shi Dan with slightly narrowed eyes. Are you telling the truth? On seeing his disbelief, Shi Dan hurriedly said, Second young master, how can this be falsified? All you have to do is to ask when you are released to find out the truth, isn't it? How do I dare to deceive you when it comes to such matters? Doesn't this coincide with His Majesty's issuance of general amnesty? The Court of Judicial Review is going to coordinate with the Ministry of Justice to leaf through all the past old cases. His Excellency Shui has to go through the files with Kong Qiu and the others. I don't dare to block his sedan chair either, and that's why I never got a chance to meet him. It was only when Shi Dan explained it in this way that Shi Hongxian more or less believed him. He said, what rotten luck to be framed at this kind of timing. Lanzhou, exactly who instigated His Majesty to leave the palace? Is there still no update from the palace regarding this matter? There are only so many people around His Majesty, so just throw out a guess. Shen Zequin said. But it's obvious His Majesty is reluctant to investigate. He's clearly of the mind to protect the other party. Miru is the only one who can make His Majesty protect her to such an extent. Shi Hongxian clenched his fists. That bitch is ruthless. There must be a reason why she's doing this. You have to be careful. She'd better not be pregnant with an imperial heir and eyeing the throne to rule behind the screen. Since she is in Shui Ziaozuo's camp, I doubt she will conceive that easily. Once again, Shen Zequin brought up the past. It was also Shui Ziaozuo's idea for you to transfer to the Bureau of Evaluations. If it's indeed the case that Miru wanted to harm you, then I can no longer perceive what Shui Ziaozuo is thinking. On the day Shi Hongxian abducted Qi Huilian, Shen Zequin had also mentioned that it was Shui Ziaozuo's idea for him to enter the Bureau of Evaluations. Now that he had brought it up again half a month later, the implication of his words had taken on a different undertone. Shi Hongxian pondered it over for a while, then said, let's leave these matters aside for the time being. Lanzhou, the priority is to get me out of here. What did Wei Huigo say? How much does he want? I'll give it to him. Shen Zequin extended 4 fingers. Shi Hongxian said, 400,000. Shen Zequin did not move. Shi Hongxian propped himself up on the table and stood up. He exclaimed, 4 million. The dishes and bowls on the table was pushed and collided with each other. Shi Hongxian's expression under the lamp gradually grew savage. He flung the wine cup without warning and seethed, that's a good one, Wei Huigo, well played, the Wei clan. So, 4 million. He began to laugh grimly. This is the total military expenditure of Great Zhou, it's almost as much as the cost of rebuilding Zongbo. So much money. Fuck. How is he going to get it? That's literally a mountain of silver. It would take half a year just to transport it separately from the west. And it will also cost money to bribe the various passes and checkpoints during this period of time when the money is being escorted across territories. Even if the money makes its way to the Chu capital, where is he going to store it? There's simply no way to hide this much money. What he is doing now is ripping you off by making such an exorbitant demand, so why would he care that much? The Jinyi Wei have just gotten the news that the Wei clan indeed has their eyes on Zongbo. Think about it. Wei Huigo currently has the Ministry of Revenue in his grasp. If he manages to take down the 6 prefectures of Zongbo, then this sum of money would be really used on military expenses. By the time the Wei clan has their own troops, and, with the Empress Dowager, then the Shi clan would be at their mercy. Shi Hongxian suddenly turned his head to look at Shen Zequin. When you advised me to join forces with them back then, have you ever thought that this would happen today? Lanzhou. These people are all wolves and tigers, they are all insatiably greedy. The moment they have us in their hands, then you and I will never be able to get back on our feet again in this lifetime. Back then, when I advised you to join forces with them and kick out the Yao clan, but you hesitated. The Yao clan was initially a good target for you to punish as a warning to others. You missed the chance, so the situation today is only to be expected. Shi Hongxian, if you don't kick them, then they will think of ways to boot you out. As if lamenting, Shen Zequin said, this situation is ever so fast changing. It's no longer the same as it was decades ago when everyone could still talk reason to one another. The 8 great clans is such that one clan rises when another falls. It's wearing down from within. You should have long swallowed up the others and declare yourself king. Shi Hongxuan's breathing quickened slightly. At this very moment, he regretted his inaction. His palms were drenched in sweat as he faced the flickering candlelight and said, Lan Zhou. When I get out this time, I'll heed your advice in all future plans. Since it has already come to this now, we have to think of a way first to get those 4 million. 4 million is still too much. Shen Zequin said. There's simply no way for that much money to pass through Juexi and escape Zhang Qingshan's eyes. Wait a little longer. I'm going to negotiate with Wei Huigu. At this point, there was no other choice but to wait. Holding himself back, Shi Hongxian said, it'd be best to hurry. The situation in the imperial court changes too fast. What's more, His Majesty is indecisive and doesn't have a mind of his own. If second young master Xiao or Miru were to coax and win him over, then it'll really be too late. It was inadvisable for Shen Zequin to stay too long. As he put on his cloak, he asked, as if offhandedly, oh, right. You are in prison, then what about Qi Huilian? He's important too, so don't let anyone see him. Shi Hongxian was about to say something, but he changed his mind in a split second. He softened his voice as he said to Shen Zequin, don't you worry. Qi Huilian will not starve to death. I've found someone to watch over him. It's just that the place is well concealed. I'll return him to you when I get out of here. It was under this dim light that Shen Zequin partially turned his head back with a hint of a smile in the uplifted corners of his eyes. As he secured his cloak, he softly said, all right. A cold draft of wind slipped in through the crack between the door, causing the hairs on Shi Hongxian to stand on ends. He rubbed his arms, wanting to say a few words more to reassure him, but Shen Zequin had already stridden out of the door. End chapter. Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 1, I Was an Outcast Liege. Chapter 79, Clues. A cacophony of human voices hung over Kaling River. Xue Zaiyi sat cross-legged on the couch, cracking peanut shells and drinking wine. When Xiao Qiye entered, he hurriedly brushed his robe clean and got off the couch to pay his obeisances to Xiao Qiye. Xiao Qiye sat directly opposite Xue Zaiyi, and Chen Yang came over to pour wine. Xue Zaiyi placed his fingers at the sides of his legs and subconsciously rubbed them on his robe to wipe his hands. At the same time, he said, that's enough, that's enough. Your lordship, too much of this wine is bad for your health. Holding the cup, Xiao Qiye said to him with a smile, the eldest young master Xue is quite meticulous. You must be diligent in keeping yourself in good health back in your residence, right? Only a little. Xue Zaiyi did not dare to take his seat without explicit permission. He was thin and short of stature to begin with, and hunching over to Xiao Qiye in a bow made him look even more humble and lowly. Xiao Qiye cordially said, please sit. I still want to seek the eldest young master Xue's advice. With his backside at the edge of the couch, Xue Zaiyi said, I wouldn't dare to be so presumptuous as to offer advice. Xiao Qiye noted from Xue Zaiyi's appearance that the latter was clearly poles apart from Xue Zaiyi's. For Xue Zaiyi's to have to submit to such an elder brother, it was only natural for him to be unable to take it lying down. It has been a while since I last saw His Excellency Yanking. Xiao Qiye drank his wine. I heard that he has been busy investigating cases with Minister Kong. It has been hard on him. It's only because the Secretariat elder has promoted him that he's basking in glory now. Xiu Xiuyu had long disliked Xue Xiuzuo. He had been making things difficult in all kinds of ways possible for this younger concubine-born brother of his, but a pity that Xue Xiuzuo had always been like a cotton that cushioned all his damages and made all his efforts amount to nothing. He's the eldest young master's younger brother of illegitimate birth. According to customs, the one leading the way to join the ranks of officials in the imperial court should be the eldest young master. So why is it the other way round in your household? Xue Xiuyi accepted the wine, not daring to refuse it. He had already lost his sense of propriety after downing a few cups and was now feeling the earth was spinning at his feet. At Xiao Qiye's question, he gripped the cup and said with a snort, "Well, he has the capability, no. Your lordship doesn't know it, but since he was young, he already knows how to ingratiate himself with men in power for personal gains. He's a shrewd and deep one. There was heavy snow in the year he was born. When the time came for him to be named with our family's generation name of Xiu, he was supposed to be named Gui. However, a Daoist priest predicted that he would meet an extremely distinguished benefactor in his life, and calling him by this name would instead prove to be adverse. His birth mother, who was a resourceful woman, fawned upon our old master in all ways possible, pleading for him to be named with a Zhou instead. As in, cultivation of virtues and outstanding capabilities, with the courtesy name of Yanking. He sure has a charmed life." Xue Xiuyi's eyes dimmed when he spoke to this point. Xiao Qiye comforted him. "Eldest young master Xue, why contend with him? You are the eldest legitimate son of the Xue clan, you have way more esteem than him." His words hit right at Xue Xiuyi's sore point, making him feel stifled. Sure enough, Xue Xiuyi set down his cup and let out a long sigh. "Your lordship," Xue Xiuyi was already drunk and subsequently, he grew bolder. "You are the second son of legitimate birth of the Prince of Liege. There is no one of illegitimate birth to pose as a threat to you, so you are unaware of the specifics. People like us fear having a capable younger brother of illegitimate birth back at home. He's of lowly birth, yet he's a notch above me. Whether it's at home or out there, who doesn't praise him to the skies? What is this? How am I supposed to live with this? Look at the 8 great clans. Which of them has a descendant of illegitimate birth as the head of the family? How is it that only our Xue clan has produced a Xue Xiuzuo? It was all because of his own selfish desires that he detested Xue Xiuzuo this much. But then, it was also precisely all because of Xue Xiuzuo that the Xue clan was able to make a comeback and secure its position among the 8 great clans. Just the heirs born to the principal wives in the Xue clan alone numbered in the hundreds, all of which took on the label of being a legitimate son. Beneath them, there were also countless illegitimate sons born by the concubines. All the momentous family occasions such as marriages and funerals, monthly salaries and monetary rewards, expenses for living in separate residences, as well as taxes and costs for the country estates, came from the Xue clan's coffers and assets. Initially, old Master Xue planned to support Xue Xiuyi and let this eldest son of legitimate birth of his take charge of the household as well as manage the family affairs. But the latter was either engrossed with cultivating the way of immortality or lavishing money on undeserving impostors and swindlers. It was just like what the Empress Dowager had said in the beginning. The descendants of the current Xue generation were all worthless good-for-nothings. Other than Xue Xiuzuo, who was of illegitimate birth, there was no one else worthy of notice. At present, Xue Xiuzuo was the Court of Judicial Review Assistant Minister. At the same time, he was also the head of the Xue clan. In these few years, he managed to put a stop to the downward decline of the Xue clan and secured its position among the noble clans. He had plenty of brothers at home who simply loafed around and contributed nothing, and he still had both paternal and maternal uncles up there who devised schemes all day to cheat the clan out of money. All of them lived off Xue Xiuzuo even as they spat at him, shamelessly seeking personal gains on the sly while cursing him for being of lowly birth. Xiao Qiye was perfectly well aware of this. He had the same thinking as Shen Zequan, and that was, if not for their uncertainty in where Xue Zaizuo stood, since he had all along been hiding behind the noble clans, then since they valued talents, they would have been willing to pull this person over to their side. The silk from Quan City incident was the key. It was what clued in Shen Zequan about Xue Zaizuo. That he was a person that they must guard against. A man who was so astute and shrewd to the extent that he had already planted hundreds of thousands of threads of puppet strings as a precaution for future planning long before everything happened, was no doubt someone who would not easily put himself at the disposal of another. When Xiao Qiye, who was stroking his wine cup, thought to this point, he said, "As long as you are human, there will be times you will be down on your luck. There's no need for eldest young master Xue to be too anxious over this. He seems to me to be doing a pretty good job of attending to official duties at the Secretariat Elder and Minister Kong's side. And he typically doesn't go drinking or fool around with the other. He's a decent person who knows his place." Xue Zaiyi immediately got all worked up. His wine-induced hiccups persisted, and he covered his nose and mouth for a moment to compose himself before he impatiently said, "That's all just an act. Your lordship, you know of the twin flowers on Donglong Street, right? That's Uhua Pavilion and Zhangyun Villa. A few years back, Xue Zaizuo bought a batch of people from Zhangyun Villa and hid them in the residence to groom." Xiao Qiye suddenly smelled something fishy when he heard Zhangyun Villa being mentioned. His gaze sharpened as he repeated in a lowered voice, "He bought people from Zhangyun Villa." "He did." Xiu Zaiyi extended his fingers. "He bought over 10 boys and girls, all from Zhangyun Villa." After a moment of silence, Xiao Qiye rose and said, "Chen Yang, keep eldest young master company. I think it's about time for Yao Wenyu to arrive. I'll go welcome him." The moment Xue Zaiyi heard Yao Wenyu's name, he sat upright and repeatedly stated his agreement, not daring to pester or bother him further. As soon as Xiao Qiye stepped out of the door, he shouted, "Gu Jin." Gu Jin dropped down from above, got down on one knee, and said, "Second young master." Xiao Qiye questioned, "How did you not find out that Xiang Yun sold over 10 people to the Xue clan when I told you to investigate Zhangyun Villa earlier?" Stunned, Gu Jin did not dare to raise his head and promptly said, "I beseech young master to punish me." In the previous assassination case, Xiang Yun switched sides and provided falsified evidence that Xiao Qiye was accepting bribes. This matter was very suspicious. Their investigations to this date threw up no clues as to why Xiang Yun would suddenly throw in her lot with the noble clans. Xue Zaizuo was no womanizer or lecher, so exactly what secret was there in his buying of so many people from Zhangyun Villa and taking them back to his residence to hide without so much a word of it all this while? Shen Zequan was right. Even if Xue Zaizuo had nothing to do with it, he had already appeared in every single incident ever since the Nanlin hunting grounds episode, perhaps even before the Nanlin hunting grounds incident. Of course, you should be punished. You have drunk quite the volume of wine ever since you came to the capital. Have you drunk yourself so silly that even those eagle eyes of yours have now gone blind? No doubt you ought to be heavily punished for your incompetence and dereliction of duty. Go on your own to ask Chen Yang for a whipping." Gu Jin started sweating profusely. Xiao Qiye handed Gu Jin's this job because he appreciated Gu Jin's meticulousness in his work, and Gu Jin was also the most skilled in conducting searches. As a former scout in the Liege armored cavalry, he had never made such an oversight before. Xiao Qiye was right. He had stayed in the Chu capital for so long that he even dared to take his assignments lightly. "I'm give you 2 days to run another check. Get to the bottom of the number of people that Xiang Yun sold to Xue Zaizuo, their names, places of origins and ages, and even who their parents and distant relatives are." Xiao Qiye strode past him and said in a frosty tone, "Make another oversight and you need not remain in this position anymore." Gu Jin said nothing and kowtowed, then he rose to his feet and headed for Zhangyun Villa. "Chen Yang, having gotten himself freed up, came out and saw Xiao Qiye's displeased expression. Thus, he said, "Master, Xue Ziyi is taking a rest now. Get someone to send him back tomorrow morning." Xiao Qiye turned back to cast a glance inside. There is a set of rare books that are the only extant copies in the Plum Blossom residence. Give it to him when you send him away tomorrow morning. Chen Yang reminded him. Those are the Yao clan's collection of books. Shouldn't we inform young Master Yao about it first? Yao Wenai sold the Plum Blossom residence to me, that means he has already decided that he doesn't want them anymore. For most part of the year, he's out there traveling and living in foreign lands. He doesn't care for these things. Xiao Qiye had drunk a large amount of wine this night, yet he did not seem to be drunk. He tossed aside the handkerchief he used to wipe his hands. Besides, even if he returned to the capital, he's so elusive that it's hard to get hold or even catch a glimpse of him. He will definitely not attend a banquet like this. This is not an easy man to invite. Had it not been for the fact that young Master Yao didn't join the ranks of officials in the imperial court, I'm afraid Xue Zaizuo would not even have the chance to shine today. Still looking displeased, Xiao Qiye said, "The turbulence of politics cannot be equated with academic debates. Yao Wenai may not necessarily do better than Xue Zaizuo. These two are interesting. They are opposites in every way. When all is said and done, he's Secretariat Elder High's student. If Xue Zaizuo is a traveler of the secular world, then young Master Yao is an immortal who transcends the mundane world." Chen Yang pondered it over. But looking at Secretariat Elder High, it seemed he cherishes young Master Yao more. That's right. Hai Lianji imparts his knowledge to Yao Wenai without reservation. He did not hesitate to break his original beliefs and overlook the noble clan's prejudice to accept him as his student. This alone is enough to see how much he values him. Xue Zaizuo's political achievements all these years are decent, yet Hai Lianji still would not give him the dignity of formally accepting him as his disciple. What's more, Hai Lianji does not have the slightest intent all these years to force Yao Wenai to serve as an official. Yuanzhou, Yuanzhou. It was out of fatherly love that Hai Lianji bestowed this courtesy name on Yao Wenai back then. The closeness of a mentor and disciple whose relationship has already reached that extent is already something no one else can compete with. Xiao Qiye said, "Yao Wenai is a legitimate noble young master of a noble clan. Going by their way of thinking, Yao Wenai is even more legitimate than those so-called legitimate descendants of the Pan, Fei, and Xue clans. The Yao clan is honorable and distinguished. Even the ladies of the Hua clan would find it hard to marry into the Yao clan in the past. In his eyes, mountains of gold and silvers are not that much of a rarity as a bowl of wild herbs." Chen Yang had not seen Yao Wenai that many times. When he bought the residence, he only had a brief encounter with him once. He remembered him as a scholar with a Zaoan bag on him, one who did not like to ride horses or sit in sedans, and instead kept a donkey. "Is Ding Tao back?" Xiao Qiye suddenly asked. Chen Yang said. "He hasn't left yet. Let him play." Xiao Qiye strode into his own house and removed the brocade robe on him to replace them with a set of ordinary clothes. "At this point in the banquet, I should have already drunk with all those whom I ought to keep company. There's still some spare time before daybreak. I'll be back soon. *******. Shenzhequan stepped out of the alleyway, and Shidan followed after him from behind. Shidan did not dare to overtake Shenzhequan and simply stood behind him as he waited for orders with his head lowered. Unexpectedly enough, Shenzhequan was gentle. After turning around to look at him for some time, he said, "You spoke well tonight." Shidan quickly bowed and replied, "It is this lowly one's greatest aspiration to help your excellency with your frustrations and difficulties. But Shi Hongxian is suspicious by nature. It's not possible to trick him out of real money with only a few words." Shenzhequan commented. "Are you fully aware of his businesses across the various lands?" Shidan said, "Yes, Yes, I am. His accounts, whether big or small, would always be sent to his residence in Chu capital every month. The 68 shopkeepers under him are all sons of domestic slaves, the parents, wives, and children of these people are all within his grasp. They were raised specifically for the purpose of managing his accounts. There is no way to hide any big or small goings-on in the storefronts from his eyes, he knows all these things. That's why there has never been a problem in his business empire all these years. Shen Zequan then replied, if Shi Hongxian wants to withdraw these 4 million, he has to brief you to take the money from the money vault and hand you the keys to open the vault door. I only want to ask, how will this money be transferred? Shi Dan silently made some mental notes and said after a while, there is, in fact, a huge risk when traveling on land. When escorting the money carts, cargoes are needed as a front to conceal the silvers. This is 4 million we are talking about. Without a business with a long history to serve as the cover, then Zhang Qingshan, the provincial administration commissioner of Juexi, would be able to see through it right away. Moreover, Your Excellency, if we travel by land, then we must first bypass the 13 cities of Juexi, as well as Dis City, and these are all difficult checkpoints to pass. Most importantly, Shi Hongxian is right, there is no place to conceal this sum of money in Chu capital at all. These were silver ingots and not paper bills. Even if one had a vacant room to keep them hidden, there was no knowing whether it would be able to accommodate all 4 million of them. Then, there was also the headache of spending this money once he had the money in hand. Shen Zequan pondered as he looked into the night, then said, this amount will not enter the Chu capital. Shi Dan did not dare to make a sound. Sure enough, Shen Zequan continued after some time, the shipment is subjected to inspections by Juexi whether it is transported by land or by sea. 4 million is too great of an amount. Even if we are thorough in our planning to keep a tight lid on this matter and hide the shipment from prying eyes, those who carry out the orders won't necessarily do a good job of the same. It's also pointless if the money can't be spent when it comes in. And so, this money won't reach Chu capital. Trying to figure out what Shen Zequan was thinking, Shi Dan tentatively probed, what Your Excellency means, is to trick the money out of him, keep it there, and circulate it through trading. 1/2 of it will be handed to you to do just that, Shen Zequan said, I'll come up with something for the other half. Be prepared. The Shi clan's business is extensive, and they can't do without a manager. When Shi Hongxian falls, you'll be the next in the line. Shi Dan quickly answered in agreement. Without another word more, Shen Zequan climbed into the horse carriage and parted with Shi Dan for the time being. He still had to return to the imperial prison to review the files of all cold cases within the last 2 decades to infer some clues from them. He did not even have the time to go home and sleep. The horse carriage reached the imperial prison. Qing, who was on night patrol, had long since opened the gates to wait for Qiao Tianya to drive in. When Shen Zequan stepped off the carriage, Qing came closer and whispered, His Lordship the Marquis is here. Shen Zequan unclasped his outer cloak and stepped onto the front porch. He nodded towards Qing, who then took his leave. Shen Zequan pulled off his cloak and hanged it on his arm as he pushed open the door. Xiao Qi, having drunk enough wine, could not rid himself of the scent even after he had a change of clothes. He slumped on Shen Zequan's chair, with an opened book covering his face. When he heard the sound, he lifted the book but did not move. Come sit here. Xiao Qi tossed the book onto the table. Shen Zequan shut the door. He hung his outer cloak on the clothes rack and undid the clasps on his clothes in passing. Meeting Xiao Qi's gaze, he swung one of his legs over Xiao Qi's thighs, coming face to face with him before suddenly drawing even closer to him. Xiao Qi reached out to wrap his arms around Shen Zequan's lower back, and their delicate lips met as they first kissed to their heart's content. End chapter.